The year is like, my son's 13, yeah, so 2010. We were doing a lot of transactions, like probably like 89, chugging towards 100. My wife's pregnant, and she happens to be our operations manager, which is dope because I don't have to pay her. I realize there's gonna be some friction, because when your operations manager is pregnant and about to have a child, and I don't have anybody else to help me, that creates a problem. And yet I was resisting fixing the problem. Anybody besides me ever know they need to do something and they resisted doing it? Yeah, see lots of heads nodding. Yeah. What I was doing was two things. The first one was stalling. I knew there was something that needed to be done, but I was afraid. The second one, for anybody who speaks Spanish, I was being tacaño, which is another way of saying what? Cheap! I didn't want to spend any money. Do I have any other cheapskates in the room? Yes? Everybody should be raising your damn hand, okay? And I didn't know what to do. I knew something needed to be done, but I didn't know what to do. So what I did is and it also wasn't acceptable for me to go backwards, for me to do less. So what I did is I went out and got a really good guide, somebody who had already been through that before, to ask him, what should I be doing right now? He said, the first thing is if you want to stay married, you need to hire somebody, okay? And then he gave me SOPs on how to hire that person. He gave me guidance on what to pay them, right? And now I no longer worry about things like that, as we have an organization that's in 15 states with multiple different staff members and people that help us, and a payroll that's over 6 figures. If you understood what was keeping you stuck, you could accomplish anything that I have in probably less time. We're gonna go over the 5, what I call the 5 assassins of success, or let's say the 5 assassins of progress. With the goal and objective being that once you can identify which ones or which group of assassins are getting in your way, you can unlock that unleash and get your unfair share of the business. Who's up for this? Say aye. Aye. I'm sorry, am I in the right room? Who's up for this? Say aye. Aye. That's better, okay? High energy equals high income team. You've never met somebody who's like, aye, who makes a lot of money, I promise. Okay. So as this says here, first of all, this is the good shit, not the bullshit. Most people teach mindset because they can't teach tactics. Okay? They'll sit in a room and be like, you know, your mind. I'm like, you're an idiot. You got to show me how to do something, bro. Like, you saying like it's all mindset is like giving me a bow and arrow and being like, go fight that war over there. You see what I'm saying? You got to equip me with what I need, right? First, let's define what we're trying to do here. Success is the progressive realization of a worthwhile goal or objective. Notice, there's some key things in this definition. Progressive. Does that mean immediate? No. How many of us get pissed off because it doesn't happen right away? Yeah. Yeah, all the time, right? It says progressive realization of a worthwhile goal. Okay? Being the best drug dealer in town is not a worthwhile goal. Right? A worthwhile goal or objective. Progress meaning forward or onward. Movement toward a destination, worthwhile, worth time, money, effort spent, value, importance. Okay? Now, we can easily understand this. Now, how many people besides me have ever been given a plan, have it stared you right in the face, and did nothing with it? Yeah. Why do you think that is? You think it's because you're not smart?
Overthinking. Impatient.
Oh, he said thinking.
Fear of failure.
Fear of failure, okay. What if I told you that we're not thinking beings that feel, we're feeling beings that think?
Yeah.
What emotions get in the way from you taking action? Name them real quick.
Fear.
Fear, that's one. What else?
Laziness.
No, what else? It's not an emotion.
Fear.
Insecurity. How many people have ever hesitated about posting something because you didn't like the way you looked? Yeah. Everybody should be raising their hand. You understand? It's not the technical work of how to do something that stops you. It's not knowing that you need to do something that stops. It's something internal. Is this making sense to you? Yeah. Okay. The bottleneck of any business is the psychology of its owner, including mine. The bottleneck of any business is the psychology of its owner. Okay? So, let's get into these assassins. This first one is called the staller. Drags their feet when opportunities come knocking. Okay? You get invited to go do a talk. What is your initial response? I don't know, bro. Somebody invites you like, yo, this listing that's like you've never listed that price. You're like, can somebody come with me? You could attend an event, make an important contact, get on a big stage, digital or physical, to get to a bigger audience, get asked to be on a podcast, speak at an event, attend an event, with leaders around. When opportunities pop up for the staller, they never take them and they never say no. Here's my question. What emotion keeps people stuck here?
Fear.
Fear. So what I was doing, this one used to plague me all the time. So even though my wife is pregnant, I know it's coming, and yet I'm doing nothing. I'm stalling. The staller won't let you make big decisions. I made a decision, guys. I sold back my interest in a company and lost $42,000, and I had to cap twice because I had 17 pendings. Do you know that this industry is set up that's basically contractual arbitrage? They know you don't read ICAs. You don't even know what that stands for, most of you guys. Independent contractor agreements, you don't even read them. They know that. And as such, what they do, they also know that 65% of you, okay, haven't, money's a thing. So they're like, what can we do to keep people from not going, leaving? Let me keep some of their money if they leave. And they don't even realize because they didn't even read it. Isn't this fantastic? But it stops you from making, if I had allowed the staller to stop me from making this decision, we wouldn't be at 325 agents. Does that make sense? The second assassin that gets in the way is called the speed demon. The speed demon makes you believe that you progress by making decisions as quickly as possible. You hire the first person that's standing next to you, your aunt, your uncle, whoever. Oh, I need somebody. I'm in pain. This is stressful. You're a body that is breathing. Come work with me. Really fast, right? And then they forcefully, they try to pick technology and make it work because they picked it really fast. They didn't do any homework. They picked a CRM and they're like, rah, this is going to be great. I always love it when you just get overexcited about CRMs. I'm like, you realize it's not going to help you do any more business, right? You have to actually talk to people. Never taking the time to reflect on the mistakes that they're making. And then they say things like, there's no good help. You can't find good people. You know what they're really saying? I have no system for finding good people. I just hire whoever's standing next to me at the time. And I never reflect. Pain plus reflection equals progress. You know what the problem is? We never take the time to reflect. Speed demon ensures that you keep making mistakes. So here's what I want you to ask yourself. And if anybody wants to volunteer, it's cool. Is there a mistake that you keep making? What is it?
Not following up.
With?
Prospects.
Okay, so you keep making that mistake. And what is the story that you're telling yourself around follow-up?
I need new business, go find someone else. They're not ready yet.
Got it. So underneath it is a fear that there's not enough. Did you come from an environment where there's not enough? Are you afraid of that in any way? Are you afraid of resources and needing to gather them and hoard them up? Yeah. So we all are to some degree. So what I'm aware of is that fear of there not being enough and having to gather up the resources is causing me to ignore the follow-up. Meanwhile, 70% of all the appointments will come in what? Follow-up. But because I'm so I gotta go find, I'm ignoring it. So the next one is the supervisor. The supervisor won't allow you to delegate things. You'll hire a TC, but then you'll end up doing the TC's work for them. He's like, don't look at me, bro. Right? You have a full-time assistant, but you take tasks away from them versus letting them do their job. Can you see how this would impede progress? Because by the way, what do we get paid to do in this business? I know there's other businesses, but in this business, the value chain, what do we actually get paid to do? Yeah. Prospect, which leads to?
Appointments.
Yeah. Lead follow-up, which leads to? Going on appointments, which leads to?
Sign contract.
Negotiating deals, which leads to? Guys, I need you to be very clear. That is the only thing you get paid to do. Anything else that you're convincing yourself you get paid to do is not accurate. Ta-da, you notice the energy in the room? They're like, damn it. I like going to, be with the videographer when he takes the pictures. I'm like, why are you a professional photographer? What exactly are you doing there? I go to the home inspections. Why, are you a home inspector? What are you doing there? How long could somebody stay with the supervisor wreaking havoc on them? A whole lifetime, bro. This gets in the way, the supervisor. Hovering. Here's the next one. The saver. Yep. This one affects the entrepreneur who is only saving money and not reinvesting in themselves or their business. They're stashing away a nest egg. Yep. They never invest in courses, never invest in classes, never invest in staff. Okay? Once the saver gets a hold of you, you created a false sense of security by holding a nest egg because you got a little money in the bank. Right? But our business is constantly changing and evolving. Do you know when I realized, okay, how many people besides me realize that media is a thing? Like it's like important. You should be paying attention to it. Yeah, everybody collectively realized that. How many people besides me, like I was 2 years ago, have no idea how to actually do it? Yeah, everybody's hand should be raised because you'll have like 2,000 followers, okay? It's a fact. So, he's like, yeah, it's true. So, I realized the same thing. I knew how to sell real estate in high volume, but I didn't understand media, but I knew it was important. See, because our boy here said when he was invited here, the person that invited me had a relationship with, you know what the second thing he said was, I know that guy. I have seen him. That's the power of media, right? The saver tells you to save money, right? Save your money, which costs time. You agonize over a $100 purchase that could save you 10 hours. Do you know when I was in high volume selling real estate, like people be like, yo, we need condo docs. I pay somebody $100 to go get it and take it wherever they need to go versus me getting in the car. Do you realize what we did with lock boxes? Because what would happen is we'd have to pay somebody to go put it on and pay somebody to take it off. My wife, who's a genius, she said to me, hey, you know, if we buy them on Amazon in bulk, they're only 10 bucks, and at closing, we'll just leave them there. Agents call me like, hey, you coming to walk through? Nope. What do you want me to do with this lockbox? It's my gift to you.
Take it. Like that idea.
Right? But the saver tells you like, no. You gotta like not spend the money, which ends up costing you time. You agonize over small purchase. You agonize over hiring a transaction coordinator. It costs $400 a file. It'll save you like 15 hours of your life that you could be prospecting and finding more deals or shooting content or whatever. Right? It just doesn't make sense. It's an employee mentality. It's like a lower vibration, right? Now, the last one, assassin that gets in the way, is the self-medicator. The self-medicator pushes you to self-sabotage to celebrate and to self-sabotage to escape. So to celebrate, you have a really good month. You know what you do? Have a big meal, have a couple drinks, mess around, right? Go out, yeah, we're celebrating, babe, yeah. And then that screws up a week. Then when things don't go your way, guess what you go back to? I had a tough month, I need a drink. I need to go eat, feel better. So what does that do to people? What roller coaster do they end up on? And how much does this impede progress? Tremendously. Because you're up here and you're high and then you're like boom and you're bringing yourself back down, you're doing all this other stuff, it's throwing you off your schedule, you can't be consistent, right? Then when things aren't going good, you go back to that, which only makes it worse. Do you understand? The self-medicator sneaks up on you in the form of celebration. A night of celebration can easily turn into sleeping late, robbing you of your progress. Do you know I didn't have a TV in my house for 12 years? Do you think I was focused? Yeah. I didn't have any hobbies, bro. There's no fantasy football. No, like chilling, dialed in. Because if you'll spend, I started when I was 26, I'm 43 now. You could literally, in this vehicle, work for 18 years, never have to work again a day in your life. But how serious are you about that? Like, well, I don't know. Right? So not only do we have like spurts of cash in this business, because most of you guys don't prospect regularly.
I think complacency.
Okay, interesting. In what way?
Complacency, like for instance, like you'll have a month that you'll make really good money.
What's really good to you? Whatever you say is fine. I'm just generally
What's
interested.
I've made?
Yeah.
37.
Okay, that's okay.
10,000.
Yeah.
In 1 month.
Yeah. And now here's what's true. I think that's, how old are you?
22.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic for being 22. Everybody would agree? Look, boys was like, bro. All right. So, and I don't mean this in any way, shape, or form egotistical. If I made that amount of money in a month, it wouldn't be a good month. So what happens is what leads to complacency is I know at 22, you are the fastest, quickest, strongest, and you make the most money of all your peers. So do you know what that means? They all buy your bullshit. You have nobody around you that's like, bro, what are you doing? No, that is not acceptable. You could be doing twice that amount. Or no, after you made all that money and I'm going to be playful, but I know that generation. They make that much money and they go on a trip to Costa Rica for 3 weeks. I'm like, no, that is not the fucking answer. In movies, whenever a man has a problem, where does he always end up?
Bar.
Isn't that weird? That's the message that we get? And in all of the messaging, when people are celebrating, what's present? Isn't that interesting? I think that's fascinating. And that ends up impeding. Do you see? Now the challenge is for you, and I'm sorry, your name?
Kevin.
Kevin, what I would propose, this is my suggestion, whether it's me or anybody else, you need very strong male role models in your life. Because what will end up happening with the amount of money that you're making, if you're not careful and you're around the wrong people, it will not lead to good things. If you want to see somebody's true character, you know what you give them access to? Money, sex, and power. Does that make sense? So you need strong, in my opinion, faith-centered male role models as a guide. I'm wondering, are you guys a little bit more clear on what exactly is getting in your way? Now, let me hear some actionable steps. What are you going to do with this information? Because I don't want you to leave here and be like, that was cool. What's the actionable step? What are you going to do?
Delegate.
Okay, that's a cute answer. Yeah, that was a politician answer. I'm going to delegate. Give me a very specific answer.
I'm going to hire a full-time assistant.
Okay, and by when? Ah, the hesitation.
End of the month.
Yeah.
Just kidding. By the end of next month.
But yeah, because I'm going to say at the end of the month. So this is beautiful, and I'm glad we're being playful, but there's also a little truth in that. Because you notice, you see what's coming up, the staller, the saver, like you're watching it happen. He knows, he's a smart person. He knows everything I said to him is true. But what did I tell you before? Emotions trump facts. So what I would suggest to you is like, if you recognize this, you see what's happening. I would be thinking about strategically, how could I recoup more of the money that I'm earning so I can reinvest it in an assistant? That's a strategic move. Then I would also want, who could I get proximity to that could help me systems-wise, CRM-wise, to get that set up? Then hire somebody. But I would also try to make that happen as fast as possible. Because legitimately, based on what you shared and what you're doing, you could be doing, no lie, no BS, twice that amount with an assistant in place. Like we were carrying 15 to 20 listings at a given time, 15 to 20 pendings. I didn't talk to any of the pendings when they were under contract. Very rarely, because I had the right person in place. I never inputted any listings. So here's what I'm gonna say, right? This is a quote, right? So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. The most repeated verse in the Bible is don't be afraid. The second most repeated verse is I am with you, and the third most repeated verse is God is good. What is interesting is what everybody said here, the thing that was stopping them was fear. Nothing to sneeze about. What everybody said here is the thing that is stopping them is fear. You're not made in the image of something that cowers. Yeah, right? We say that, we'll sit in a place, but we don't act that way. We get 27,550 days on the planet. 75 years in the industrialized world, women have a tendency a little bit more than men. I'm 43, that means I've used more than half. Whatever's left, I'm gonna sleep through a third of it. If you sleep 8 hours a day, it's a third of a day. All that is to demonstrate is it's not that much. So why are you waiting to go after what you actually want? If you realized how quickly people forget that you were here, 100 years from now, everybody in this room will be dead and everybody who knows this will be dead, right? The only thing that makes you not qualified for what you want is your unwillingness to learn. So if you sat here and you're like, that was dope, that was cool, and you don't create that system, you're gonna stay the same. And what'll happen is you'll settle for low-level significance. low-level people telling you you're the man. My hope is that this would be helpful to you in some way and that you can take that action. If you need help or assistance in doing that, like reach out to us because that's what we're here to do. It's me that answers the DMs. It's me that gets back to people, right? And we're here to help you guys. So an unlit lamp is no good for two reasons. One is that it can't provide light. Second is it can't light other lamps. A lit lamp, though, is very valuable. And the reason why it's so valuable is because it can provide light, right? In the Bible, it says, if you have a lamp that's lit, you do not hide it in the closet. You put it on the table so it can provide light for everyone. It can also light other lamps. So what's interesting about leadership is that by taking someone who perhaps doesn't see themselves in a certain way, helping them to see themselves in a different way, they become a lamp that you can put on a table and it can provide a lamp to thousands of individuals. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And provide inspiration for all these different people. So it's one thing for us to have a conversation. It's another thing. Ben had to take the action, even though it was extremely uncomfortable each step of the way, right? So the question is, what gets in the way of action?
Complacency.
Negotiating with yourself, complacency. What else do you think? Huh? Self-doubt. Okay. Success is the progressive realization of a worthwhile goal and objective. Ask yourself a question. The people that are in your organizations, do you know what their dreams are? I know what Heath's dream is. I know what he wants to accomplish. I know what Tackett's dream is. I know what your dream is. Dan wants to have a place in New Jersey and a place in Miami because he loves the vibes in Miami. And I know it's going to take $10,000 a month in residual income to make it happen. So you know what my job is? Help him to make it happen. But helping him to make it happen requires a lot of things because there's a lot of unwinding, a lot of unlearning, a lot of pushing, sometimes cheerleading. Ben sent me a text message. He had his largest commission check he's ever had in his life. How much was it? 43,000 bucks, right? He sent me a, Jessica in the back, she's like, huh? You can make 43,000 bucks selling one fucking house? And he sent, the rev share was 3,000, right? But then he sent a picture, it was a picture of him. I commented, there was a picture of him with his daughter. They were at a soccer game, all smiles. He's like, yeah, but what you didn't see is I was on my phone doing deals. And what I told him is like, bro, it's perfectly okay. It's normal and natural. Use that as fuel to keep moving you down the path. Because there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. It's the progressive realization of a worthwhile goal. Progressive means forward, onward movement towards the destination. Worthwhile means worth time, money, effort. This comes from a book. It's called Buy Back Your Time by a guy named Dan Martell. And I found it to be very true because I have the good fortune of speaking to people on a regular basis, some of the best agents around the country, about the things that get in the way of taking action. Ben alluded to this one. This one's called the staller. Okay? When I was talking to him about media, he's giving me all the reasons why he's stalling. Right, Deirdre? Yeah, she's like, oh, I do that too. Okay? Drags feet on opportunities when they come up. Okay? Scenarios help your business grow. See what he said? If I provided him an opportunity to speak in front of his peers 2 years ago, he would have faked a way to get out of it. Big stage you could be on, a big podcast you could be on, attend an event like this with other leaders. When opportunities pop up for the staller, right? They never take them, but they also never say no. They're the type of people you'll send them an invitation or email. You'll see they opened it, but they won't fucking reply. What emotion keeps us stuck at the staller? Fear of what?
Making the wrong decision.
Making the wrong decisions, one. It also could be loss. Loss of status, I'm gonna look stupid. Loss of money. The staller won't allow you to make big decisions. Just keep you stuck perpetually, 6 months, a year. The second assassin is the speed demon. Makes you believe that you drive progress by making decisions really quickly. How many people here have hired a family friend or somebody really fast? Yeah. How good does that work out usually? Mark's like, nope. We've had many conversations about that, haven't we, Mark? You hire the first candidate you see, aunts, uncles, whoever, you pull them in real quickly, you forcefully select technology without doing any research, never taking the time to reflect on mistakes that you've made. So what ends up happening is you keep repeating them all the time. So you know what people say? Oh, there's no good staff out there. What's your system for hiring them? You put them through a personality profile, like the predictive index that Jose provides to everybody. What's your onboarding like? What's your training like? So is it that there's no good people, or is it that your system sucks? But you see, if you keep making decisions quickly and you never reflect, pain plus reflection equals progress. Most people experience pain, you know what they never do? reflect. What emotion keeps us stuck here? The speed demon. Yes. So you know what agents say to me regularly? I can't take the time to build my systems because if I do that, I will stop doing what? And making more money. So then they live perpetually in an environment and where they have shitty systems and have to do everything. Ta-da!
That's an attack.
She's like, I feel personally attacked. How dare you? Okay. But this is legit. That emotion, I want you to recognize the speed demon, that emotion here that keeps us stuck here because we're not thinking beings that feel, we're feeling beings that think. Right?
I wonder.
Yeah. So if you don't have the appropriate systems in place, you will not do more deals, period. You can only grow to the proportion that your systems will allow you to. Next one is a supervisor. You won't, the supervisor doesn't allow you to delegate. Okay? You hire a TC, but you end up doing the TC's work. You're answering the emails before the TC can answer them. You're hovering over them. You have a full-time assistant and you take tasks away from them versus letting them do their job. What is the emotion that keeps us stuck, that causes the supervisor to wreak havoc on us? Say it, Ellie.
Fear they're not doing it the same way.
If you keep following it, where it ends up with is your gremlin telling you, you're going to end up broken alone and by yourself in a dumpster. It goes right there really fast. Right? But let me ask you guys a question. How many people do you know that are mega successful that have 0 employees? So why the fuck are we imagining that we can be super productive and successful and not have employees? Sabrina has 35 employees. I asked her at dinner last night, I'm like, what is your payroll? It's $50,000 a month. You guys are like, well, you know, fucking $1,200 is a lot of money. Like, what are you doing? And we have very little risk compared to her. She has to take out loans. She's got to hire all these people for like 20% profit margins. So the emotion here is trust. If I don't delegate, what is that really communicating? I don't people. And if I don't trust people, it really means I don't trust. You ever notice that people that are not trustworthy, like they don't trust other people because they're not trustworthy? Or I don't have a system that I trust. Supervisor ensures that your time never gets upgraded. So if you could dominate the supervisor, not still be in assistant work, how could your time get upgraded? What could you spend it doing? Media? What else? Reading? What else? Product investing? What else? Family time? What else? Bro, you can upgrade your time. You have to get out of this thinking because we grew up in situations where we heard money doesn't grow on, eat all the food on your, and a penny saved is a penny, which is horseshit because it's just a penny.
Not only that, but the 2 assistants that we have for our assistants, I think we pay one of them like $12 an hour. And the other one, I think it's like $9 an hour, basically.
Yeah.
And they're the assistants for the assistants,
Correct.
basically.
Yeah,
So
and that frees up how much of your time, like approximately?
it frees up a lot of time, basically.
Like how many hours would you say like a week are freed up because of that structure?
Well, I don't have to deal with it. Frees up energy as well, too.
Explain what you mean.
So, like, let's say an agent is upset. Or let's
Oh
say,
my God, that happens to you?
Or let's say a seller is upset.
Oh my God, that happens to you too?
They are the first line of defense. And if I need to talk to the client, it's already like the assistant already heard 30 minutes of the ramble already.
Yeah, so by the time they get
By
to
the
you,
time
it's
they
like
get
5
to me,
minutes.
they've already let it all out, basically.
Yeah.
You know? So it clears up energy because of that as well, too. Like lots of energy.
You have to get out of this mindset of like, if you want to get it done right, you have to do it your. Think about the people who told you that. What's their life like? It's fucking shitty. They cut their own grass. They do their own shit. They fix their own roof. They do everything themselves. And they live very small, tiny. Okay? So ask yourself a question. What percentage of your time during the day are spent on mediocre tasks? It's wild. So even though Dee makes like she grosses $1 million a year, what percentage of your time you spend are mediocre tasks? Honestly. 20%?
Yeah.
Yeah. 20%. Bullshit. Can you imagine if somebody of her capacity and her power freed that up? I mean, like an extra $500,000. The next one is the saver. This one affects the entrepreneur who is only saving money and not reinvesting it back in themselves. This was me, guys. 100%. I could have grown much faster and quicker if I would have reinvested back in the business. Once the saver gets a hold of you, you created a false sense of success by hoarding a nest egg. So what emotion keeps people stuck here? Fear of there not being enough. No bullshit. Who besides me has that? Fear of there not being enough. Look, bro, look, high, up. Look at that, bro. It's like 50, 60% of the room. That's because it actually works out. Because 65% of the US population lives paycheck to paycheck. So it makes sense that that is the case, that we have this. If you think if you hear money doesn't grow on trees all the time, and you hear that shit all the time, you don't think that program's the way that you think? 100% it does. So fear that there's not enough. The saver tells you to save money, which costs you time. You will agonize over small purchases that could save you hours, tens of hours of your time. So that's what Jose's saying. Jose's saying $1,300 a month saves him 30 hours a month. Or $1,300 a month saves him 30 hours of his time. Like if I'm going to go buy like a fucking Birkin bag instead of hiring a virtual assistant, your priorities are fucked up. You're not focused on the right things. You were going to say something, Carla?
No, if you do some girl math, okay, so by hiring this assistant, it costs $15,000. If you do two more deals,
Yeah.
the whole year,
Yeah.
buying back that time, it's basically free.
Yeah, and it's a perfect example because this was also, hey,
Even one, some people it's one deal.
Yeah.
I'm
Not-
talking
not
about
only
in our
that,
market, it's about 2 deals.
Not only that, but what's the risk? You're not even committing for the full year if it didn't work out. You're committing for 3 months.
Yeah.
Which means the risk is only like $3,600 to $3,900.
that's a really good point. Hey, so this was also me. So the two that wreaked havoc on me was the staller. I would take too long to make decisions, and the saver. So I'll give you an example. We're humming along, doing deals. Carla's pregnant. She's going to give birth 6 months, out. And I knew I probably had to do something because she was everything. Listing coordinator, transaction coordinator, photographer. She's like out there on her heels, putting signs out, taking pictures with these tiny little fucking things before there was like bigger cameras, She's doing everything. And I had a coach, because I'm like a typical guy, right? So I had a coach who said, hey, I said, yes, sir. He said, do you want to stay married, bro? I'm like, what are you talking about? My relationship's good. He's like, you're going to need to hire somebody. You're going to need to hire some more people to help. And I was like, oh, will we? Hadn't thought of that. But why hadn't I thought about it? Because I was being fucking cheap. I didn't want to spend the money, right? So we hemmed and hawed, whatever. We hired our first assistant. It probably cost $35,000 for the year. Do you know within 8 months of hiring her, I made an extra $150,000? Because what was happening is Carla doesn't like to be on the phone. She actually doesn't like to talk to people. Okay?
It's true.
It's true. She doesn't. So what she would do, literally, our phone number would be in MLS. It would go straight to fucking voicemail. She wouldn't even answer.
But I didn't, okay, in my defense, I didn't have time to answer because I was fucking taking pictures. I was doing transaction coordination. I was doing the book.
Yeah, we get it. It's okay. Yeah, it's fine. So,
To defend myself.
hey, so she would have it go straight to voicemail. She would check the messages twice a day. There would be a list of 12 messages. And at 6 o'clock when I get home, she'd be like, here, bro, you got to call these people back. See ya. Straight up. So I'd be in there till like fucking 8 o'clock at night, like calling people back. And finally, the pain got so great. I'm like, look, and the coach told me it would be an upgrade in your life, even if you don't make any more money. And she was right. So invest in the course that makes you more money. You know how many people have DM'd me because they took the probate course and they're taking listings? Like right away, right? Invest in a course that'll make you more money. Hire a runner. Why are you guys picking up lockboxes, picking up signs? Hire somebody to do it, bro. Bro, if it was less than $200, I was like, people be like, hey, bro, I need you to come pick up the condo docs. I'm like, boop, boop, boop. Hey, you want like $80 to go pick that up? Sure, go get them. Like, why am I doing that? It's not worth my time. And I don't mean that in like a egotistical way. It's just accurate. Hire a virtual assistant. Invest in camera equipment, right? Because all of these things will help you to grow and expand, but the saver will cause you not to be able to make a decision on it. Now, this is interesting because we get into trading the different trades that we make, okay? So we make different trades every single day. We're just not clear on what those trades are. The clearer we can be on them, the better trades we'll make. Trading time for money. What would be examples of trading time for money?
Working.
9 to 5, fine. What else? Trading time for money. Yeah, it's trading time for money. What else? Yeah, it's trading time for money. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with trading time for money. We all start there. What's going on? How you doing, brother? Nice to see you, bro. You got a little 5 o'clock shadow today, dude. You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Just checking, bro. I don't know. You're normally like super baby faced. Ricky's
yeah.
in the background. He just got cut up, looking shaped up, looking tip top. So, what I wanted to talk to everybody about today is something that I've been kind of thinking about. I know, Jose, me and you masterminded on it this Wednesday. Are these assassins of success, right? And this is coming from a book that I read and I'm currently reading by Dan Martell. Really good book called Buy Back Your Time. And, after reading it, it's pretty interesting, Jose. I don't know if you've had an experience where you read something and like immediately you know that it's accurate because you've had direct experience with it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
for sure.
And immediately when I read this, I was like, oh, it's 100% accurate. Because I've had the good fortune of coaching agents for over a decade and going through that process myself of building a business.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that what he was saying was true. So we'll go over these, and I think it would be kind of interesting for me and you to reflect on kind of our journey and even currently today, which one of these or combination of these assassins pops up, because I
Okay.
know it'll be beneficial for not only me and you, but for everybody else. So there's 5 different kind of assassins that can slow down progress, let's say, right? Because success is the progressive realization of a worthwhile goal and objective. Worthwhile is important. Trying to become the best drug dealer is not a worthwhile goal and objective. But the progressive realization, so progressive meaning like over time, and it takes time, and realization, materialization of a worthwhile goal and objective. And these assassins, in my opinion, they slow down progress, okay, towards that worthwhile goal and objective. The first is the staller. So the staller can be described, if we're personifying the staller, as, when there's a decision to be made and you procrastinate making the decision. There's an invoice to be paid for an event that you want to attend or something that you want to do. You've received the invoice. It's been in your mailbox for a month and you still haven't paid it. Or there's a decision that you're making about perhaps, changing models or changing a company, and you're just stalling on making that decision, right? And I know for me personally, I don't know about you, Jose, and I've known you for a while. I don't think the staller is like your sort of thing. Actually, it might be just with people. But for me, that was something that was slowed down my progress, was perhaps stalling, like knowing that a decision made sense, but like taking too long perhaps to make it, right? So for you, did the staller ever kind of show up for you, and in what way?
I think it's just in different areas, and I got a list now. I have braces right now.
Oh, look at Jose. You got braces, bro. What'd you get? Invisalign?
No, I got the ones that go behind the teeth, but I'm having a little bit of trouble adjusting to saying certain things. So it's going to sound a little bit funny, but we'll work with it.
It's all good. How long do you have to have them on for?
1 year or
Okay.
less.
Did you stall on getting them?
No, I actually did not.
Okay,
Once
good.
I made the decision, it was kind of like, all right, I'm thinking now I maybe should have stalled on getting them because of the way that I sound. So I
Yeah.
think the opposite of it. But it was kind of like one of those decisions that I was like, okay, I want to fix the bottom teeth and I needed to get it done. So I don't think there's ever a perfect timing to get it done. But I'll tell you where I have stalled. I've stalled in keeping people at my company that it hasn't worked out for a period of time. And I've known that it's not working out. And because I don't want to go out and find somebody else, I've stalled keeping them at my company for too long. Or
Mm,
sometimes because I felt bad for that individual, like meaning like, oh man, like this individual has a family or this individual has this, or like yeah. So I would say I've stalled. There's certain areas where I have stalled, and there's certain areas where I don't stall. But I could see even when I was considering moving to EXP, Lars took me through the third party process and kept scheduling calls with me until he scheduled like 2 or 3 of them. He's like, so what should we do? And he kind of gave me that little extra push that I needed. But had I not been put through that process, I could have seen myself stalling a little bit longer on making the decision, basically. And I think when people stall, there's usually some sort of fear in the background. Like some
I
sort of
agree.
fear is usually in the background, and it could be different things for different people.
Yeah, and for me, the fear was just letting go of like money.
Mhm.
You know, like that's usually when stalling happens, right? It's like, oh man, or the perceived like, oh, like, this might result in like a reduction of revenue or something like that. So it's kind of stalling on making a decision. And I see this regularly. I mean, we see this with people that we have calls with where, fear trumps facts, bro. So we'll give people the facts and it makes all the sense in the world, but they'll stall. Well, I got to wait for this. I got to wait for fucking this, or I got to see what happens. I got to talk to this person. Like all of that is just a mechanism of stalling, right? The
I
second,
hold
go
on,
ahead.
hold on. I think what's equally important is what message are you telling yourself when you notice that you're stalling? So I'll give
Mm,
you an example. Like when I was stalling on moving to EXP, I went to my previous broker, and my previous broker was telling me that my business was going to drop because Remax had the number one market share in the area. And that the reason people did business with me was because I was with Remax. And my business grew at Remax, but then I started challenging that thought. I'm like, is this a real thought? And I was like, okay, Meet Kevin's not with Remax. He makes a lot more money than I do. Ryan Pineda's not with Remax. He makes a lot more money than I do. And I started naming different people that weren't at Remax, yet they had successful real estate companies or even just businesses in general. And what came to the surface was that it was a limiting belief. It was a story that I was telling myself. And I'll tell you like another thing that's happening right now. Right now that I got braces, like the first thought that came into my head, I'm like, fuck, are people still going to want to do business with me? Am I going to be able to explain things to people the same way that I've been explaining things to people? Like most of my selling is over the phone, and some of it is in person. And your voice over the phone is extremely important. And the message I gave myself this morning within 24 hours of me getting braces and me going through that, I'm like, fuck this. I'm like, I'm actually going to be better than I was because I'm just going to adapt to whatever it is. But initially I was like, maybe getting braces wasn't the right decision. Maybe I should have waited a little bit long. And this morning I started changing the messaging that I was giving myself about the decision that I had made, basically.
I love that. And what it makes me think about is my son. He had Sebastian. He had to bring home a baby. It's like this very $1,500 like not real human baby, but like a kind
Yeah.
of robot baby.
Oh,
And the
wow.
baby cries, and you have to like change its diaper, and you have to feed it, right? And it wakes up in the middle of the night. So in middle school, I think it's a good way for them to experience what actually having a baby is like. It's a form of contraceptive in a way. And um it was interesting because I heard him doing that with himself in the car. So I took him to his soccer practice. You have to bring the baby with you. Baby starts crying. He's like, Dad, can you help out? You got to do this stuff. And like, yeah. And then he's in the car. You know what I hear him saying to himself? It's only 2 days. It's only 2 days. I'm only gonna have to do this for 2 days. Like he was prepping himself mentally, just like you were prepping yourself mentally. Like, this is what, I'll just handle this. But to your point, I think the staller shows up, and if you see yourself stalling, a really good question to ask yourself is like, what am I afraid of? Like, what's underneath it? Is it a fear of letting go of money? Is it a fear that if I do this, to your point, people are going to think I sound silly and they won't want to do business with me? Is it a fear of how I'm being perceived? Is it a fear? And I think, people would see you, Jose. I mean, you're the dominant king of, Oxnard, let's say. And they'd be like, man, Jose doesn't have those thoughts. It's like, sure he does, man. Like it's normal. It's natural. It's just that he countered it very quickly and was like, nah, dude, that's not going to be like true.
It was probably within, if you count waking hours, it was probably within 10 hours that I started changing the messaging that I was giving myself. The other thing I would say as it relates to stalling is just anytime you're going through something like this is just noticing it. That's the first step. You can't change something that you don't notice. So I noticed it and I was like, okay, I got to change the messaging. But here's what I would say to people. And you said this to me a long time. He's like, how can you expect clients that you're meeting with at a listing presentations to make decisions on the spot to sign a 20, 30, 40, $50,000 contract to work with you when you're stalling to make a $10 decision as to which something should I buy next. So the reason Aaron is saying that these stallers kill, they do, because you can't ask somebody, or you're not going to be good at asking people to make decisions on the spot if you're not good at making fast decisions yourself either. So that's what he means by that these assassins kill
Progress.
the goals. Yeah, progress.
Yeah, and they kill progress. 100%. That's exactly right. So yeah, it's comical to imagine that, like, you get upset with someone when they're want to think about a really big decision with so much money on the line, where we will stall on, we'll put something in a cart in Amazon and won't buy it for like 5 days. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, come on, dude, those two things don't make sense.
Or
Remember
even
we were
shopping around, or even you
Yeah.
shop around, like you're like buying a $500 something. You'll spend an hour, 2 hours shopping around to see different things. So when people are going to sign a 20, 40, $50,000 commission, like it's a big decision for them,
Yeah. Do you remember when we did that role play, and I forgot his name, but he would like always ask, and he doesn't show up anymore, but we were talking about the commission, and then I started
Jay.
to close Jay, and I was like, "Hey, so do you think if you talk to me on a regular basis that would that would improve your business?" He's like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, "How many more extra deals do you think you do?" He's like, "I don't know, like probably like 10." And I'm like, "Great. And what's your average commission?" He's like, $15,000. I'm like, "Wow." So in other words, you can make an extra $150,000 if you talk to me on a regular basis. He was like, "Yep." I'm like, "Great. I'm going to send you the coaching agreement at $2,500 a month or whatever it was." And then he got like, "Oh, wow." I'm like, wait, time out, bro. You were just asking somebody for like 30 grand, and you get upset when it's time for them to like make a decision. But here you are stalling and slowing it down, right? It's the same thing. My intention in doing that for him was for him to see like, yo, you're no different. You're doing the exact same thing, right? So it's not that we make decisions hastily. I don't want people to hear that, but it's more like when you've done the research and the homework and it makes sense, and I'm still not doing it, you're stalling.
Well, and then here's the other thing. Like, so my question to people is, what are you stalling on? Like, what is it that you're stalling on? And just know that this stalling mechanism is I'd probably say one of the most common ones that most people stall on making decisions.
Yep.
And if you're able to make decisions faster and move forward in lieu of fear, you're able to basically accomplish, like, I've had fear at different stages of my career. Like when I bought my first apartment complex, like a lot of people would have bailed out on that. They would have been like, "Oh no, there's too many uncertainties. There's too many unknowns." Sometimes the question I ask myself when I notice I'm stalling or I'm kind of hesitating, which is kind of similar, is like, what's worst case scenario?
Yeah, you do that regularly when we've been around
Like,
each other. You're like, what's worst case scenario?
I think I jump faster at worst case scenario than most people. And I always jump faster at second or third step. Like, meaning like, okay, if this happens in this, but I'm already thinking about 2 and 3, if that happens. And then if I'm okay with worst case scenario, or if I'm okay with second or third layer consequences, then I'm good with it and I'll move forward with it in lieu of, despite me not knowing everything as well too. But I think that can help people as well.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So good. So that's the staller. So go ahead and drop in the comments if the staller has showed up in your life before. And if so, around what? The next one that we can talk about, the next assassin that slows down progress, is actually the opposite of the staller. It's the speed demon. And what the speed demon does is they make decisions like very, very fast, and then never take the time to reflect on when it didn't work out. And then as such, they just continue to keep repeating the same mistake. So an example would be like, oh, they hire out of pain, not out of gain. So I need somebody right now. And they look around, they're like, oh, well, my cousin needs a job right now. And they just like pull them in. And then it doesn't work out. But then they never take the time to reflect why it didn't work out. So then they're doomed to repeat that over and over and over and over again. If you've ever noticed, Jose, I'm sure you have, because you've been in business a long time. Like I've noticed, like, some people like have a really hard time with not only hiring, but retaining staff. And I believe that this is one of the reasons why, right? It's because they make decisions like super quick and they think that's the way. And they just keep plowing through by making more decisions on top of it. But they never actually take the time to reflect when it doesn't work out. So they're doomed to repeat that poor decision over and over and over again.
Yeah. I think a lot of that has to do with like thinking long term as well too, as opposed to short term. And I
Mhm.
think the reflection part is the key. And I think it's funny because when something doesn't work out, like we lost a deal right now that it was the owner wanted a cash offer and I went for a listing instead of a cash offer. And guess what who he sold to?
A cash offer.
A cash offer, 100%. So like the very first thing that me and the gentleman I was working this deal with, we were like, okay, like what could we have done differently? Like what adjustments could we have made? And then at first it was like, no, everything we did was good, but that wasn't the case. I'm like, no, I probably should have paid attention to this. No, he let me know of this versus that. No, this and that. So we're like making adjustments right away and being like, because what happens is that sometimes you get comfortable. Like I had been selling properties to a hedge fund and the hedge fund wasn't interested in buying it, but I had a wholesaler that has helped me with dispositions in the past. And I probably could have just tied it up and basically worked with him on this deal. And it would have been like easier. So it just taking the time to reflect, I think, is a key. But making sure that when you reflect, you're coming to the right conclusion, meaning sometimes people will reflect and it'll be like the wrong conclusion, meaning like it's outside of me. Like, let's say that for that person that is hiring people and it doesn't work out, they're like, oh, well, the job market sucks, or there's no good employees right now, or everybody out there, or I'm the only one that's going to be able to deliver on this. So sometimes people in that reflection, they blame things outside of them versus being like, what could I have done differently, and taking ownership of that. And I think that's also a key, making sure that you take ownership of whatever doesn't go right or the way that you want it to go right.
Yeah, I agree. What I wrote down as you were saying that is like extreme ownership and just like accountability. So instead of placing blame externally, like, well, they weren't the right fit, or like the job market sucks, or it's so hard to find good talent, or, that sort of thing. It's like, all right, well, how did I contribute to this? Do I have an SOP around hiring? Did I use a personality profile? Like, did I hire out of pain instead of gain? Is there a training process that's in place that people can follow, and for 3 weeks they don't actually do anything until they go through that training process? Like, what is the system, right? And and then if you do that, so pain plus reflection equals progress. Pain plus reflection equals progress. The issue is when people experience pain, they usually don't take the time to reflect. Instead, what they do is what you were saying, which is blame. And that's problematic, right? It's not mature. It's not a way to like grow. If you just take the position of extreme ownership, which is a wonderful book by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, it prevents you from trying to place blame elsewhere, and causes you to actually learn and grow as time progresses. So making decisions super quickly and not reflecting is also something that stifles progress. Now, me personally, that's not something that like one of the assassins that, show up for me. And I'm imagining it's not really one that shows up for you that much, is it?
No, I think that I have pretty good judgment because I typically do reflect on a lot of things. And here's the thing that I do as well too. Not only do I reflect on the things that happen to me, I reflect on the things that happen to other people around me. And that usually helps me out tremendously. Like, it was funny because my dad would tell me stories growing up. And one of the stories would tell me, hey, you see that gentleman over there? And I'd be like, yeah. He's like, well, that guy used to make a lot more money than I did. But what he did is he partied his money away, and I basically invested in real estate instead. So I reflected on that, and I'm like, okay, what's the message there that I received from it? I'm like, well, you can make a lot of money, but if you're pissing it away, there's a time and place where you may not be able to make the same amount of money. And if you piss all that money away and you weren't smart with your money, you may wish that you were in that position again where you were making that $1 million a year and you may not be in that position in the future. So because you piss it away, you have a lot of regret. So I'll reflect on things that happen to my friends. I'll reflect on things that happen, like things that I hear from clients. And that helps me be like, okay, like I don't want to do that. I want to do this, or I want to do this instead, you know?
Yeah. And the thing that you also do too, because I've been a part of that, is you also triangulate with people who have demonstrated track records of good judgment over an extended period of time. So not only do you come to your own conclusions, but then you will reach out to people that have demonstrated track records of good judgment, which we would label those people believable. And then you triangulate with them. You're like, yo, this is what I'm thinking. Like, what do you think?
I'll ask them
Right.
what they think. Yeah.
Yeah. And me and you do that with each other regularly, where like, you'll be like, yo, what do you, and I'll do that with you. I'll be like, yo, what do you think? And then because we both have demonstrated track records of good judgment over an extended period of time. So, you know, if you don't have people in your ecosystem to that effect, like seek them out, you know, you could always reach out to me or Jose and ask a question. I'm not saying like we're perfect at judgment, but we definitely have demonstrated track records of good judgment over time.
Yeah. And then I think too, like I've reached out to people that have already done what I want to do. Like I'll give you another example. Before I approached you as a mentor, I verified your production, meaning I went online and I looked up on Zillow and I was like, how much homes has Aaron sold in the last 12 months? And at that time, you were selling anywhere from 150 to 200. So I was like, verified. I think a mistake that people make is when they're triangulating ideas, they're triangulating ideas with people that haven't done what they want to do. Like they're getting advice on buying an investment property from somebody who doesn't own any investment properties. They're getting advice from buying their first home from like, I know somebody out there that's like, no, don't buy right now. The market's going to crash. And they're telling everybody that, yet they don't own any real estate, you know? And it's like, so I think that's important as well, too, when coming up with this.
Yeah, no, agreed. Like 1,000% is, you know, we live in a time where you don't have to be competent to be famous. And a lot of people are like, you know, just don't have the demonstrated track record. They want to be that influencer. They want to be the person who gets attention, but they want it for the wrong reason. You know, there's a saying that says like, if somebody like doesn't want the leadership position, they're probably suited for leadership. Right. I think a lot of people want like the title, they want the perks, they want the accolades, but they don't want to have to do what leaders actually do. Right.
I think here's the last thought for me on that. I think if you are suffering from being the speed demon, just getting really good at asking questions about anything that you're hastily making decisions on. Like,
Yeah.
so I probably should have asked more questions about the braces. Just thinking about it, I probably should have been like, okay, like,
Yeah.
like the interior ones, what do they do? Which one has the least amount of lisp on it, you know? And I just didn't. I was like, those look nicer. I want those. But I think whenever you're a speed dimming, sometimes it's a lack of asking sufficient questions. Like, okay, what about this? What about that? And making an informed decision. I think that's the best thing people can do.
Yeah. And I think also a counter to the speed demon is to ask yourself a question like, what is the decision that's best in the short term? And what would be the decision that's best for the long term? Because really, the longer you can think in longer time horizons, the better judgment you will have. Right. Because really what judgment is about what's best for the long term.
Yeah.
Right. So the longer you can kind of think in terms of time frames, the better decisions and choices that you'll make. And it's interesting because, you know, choices and decisions are really the only things that we truly own. And they really have an enormous impact on, you know, the quality of the outcomes that we produce. And yet nowhere in our formal education are we taught to be better decision makers. Nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a master's degree, like PhD, like nobody teaches you how to become a better decision maker, or nobody teaches you the quirks in thinking, you know, like resulting, which our brain does. Just because it happened before means it's going to happen again. It's like, no, it doesn't. Right. Or the endowment effect, because it's mine. I think it's better. That is a flaw in thinking. Right. Or the fact that our brains are wired for short-term immediate stuff, right? Because 50,000 years ago, we're running around from bears, lions, and tigers. So like we're just optimized for like right here. So it's difficult to think out in longer time horizons. So yeah, I think the more that you can, there's a really good book that helped me in that area. It's called Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke. She's a professional poker player, but she talks about the psychological component of, you know, making decisions, because that's what poker players do all the time, and kind of thinking in probabilities instead of exacts, realizing that there's two things can be true at the same time. It's just like which one's more true and which one's more true for the long term. And how many conversations have me and you had like that? Like we'll be like, yeah, bro, like, yeah, this is, because again, you know, we have long track records of good judgment. We'll say, you'll be like, yo, here's my assessment of reality. And I'll be like, well, here's my assessment of reality. And then we'll triangulate, be like, okay, optimized out for the long term, which one is more true? And we don't care who's right. It's not like I'm like, oh, well, I'm right and you're wrong. It's more like, no, I just want to get to optimized long term, which one is more true, because that's the one that we're going to go with. In our previous episode, that's a weight loss program, because you'll starve to death. You need to get a real job that has benefits. I'm role playing twice a day, 6 days a week, and I'm handwriting out stuff. So I'm practicing an hour and a half a day, 6 days a week. People in my office be like, what are you doing? That's silly.